Hello everyone, this is Carmeet again. Today we're gonna do an easy peasy Arch Linux install that even beginners or even cavemen like you or me can do. Now I'm not gonna be doing this on a VM or on real hardware because I feel like it's gonna be more stressful to actually explain how things work, which is why I made these slides in LibreOffice Impress, which shows all these steps. Like frankly, this is what you would be entering into an actual Arch Linux installation. Now, one thing before I start, I just want to let you know whenever I'm putting a dollar sign, try to make it look a bit like a command line. Now, I know in the actual Arch installation, you'd have a hash sign like this instead of a dollar sign. But I don't know, the dollar sign looked more command liney, so I kept the dollar sign instead. You do not type that. You do not type the space either, you just type the stuff after that. Okay, I'm just gonna let you know about it from the beginning. So let's get started with the presentation. So this is an easy peasy Arch Linux setup that even cavemen like you can do. So the stuff we're gonna cover in today's installation. First off, we'll do the actual OS installation. After that is desktop environment setup. I'm gonna do KD Plasma because I think it works really well in Arch Linux. And after that we're gonna do the AUR setup and like nice repos and the installation of many apps and stuff. I mean, I'm not gonna show you the apps how you're gonna install the apps you want, but I'm gonna show you how to set up the repos so that there's a very good chance you can get any app that you want. And after, I mean, if you've been able to do everything, I guess you can flex off that use Arch, by the way. So let's get started. First off, you need to get the ISO. So you need to go to this link archlinux.org/download. I mean, you could just search up Arch Linux ISO download and you'd get to this page. And then you scroll to the bottom and select a mirror from the country you're in. Like for example, I was in the US, so I selected a mirror in the US. I think I did fcix.net or something. That's a decent mirror. But if you're unsure, you can either just it wouldn't be that bad of an idea to select a random error or it's a random mirror in, but because I think you can always change the mirrors after installation in the pacman.com, so or something like that. I don't know. You point is you can do stuff with mirrors later on, so it's even if it's too slow, it's not a big deal. Okay. So you would download it. It's like 2 gigs, and then you want to burn your ISO to USB. So if you're in Linux, you should use the Fedora Media Writer. It looks like that. If you're in Windows, personally I've tried to use Balena Etcher. For some reason it never worked for me, so I used this thing called Ventoy. It works differently. Instead it would just install something on your pen drive and then you copy paste the ISO onto your Ventoy pen drive. It's a bit of a weird process, but I actually like it because theoretically you could have multiple ISOs. You could have like 7, 8, 9 ISOs in the same pen drive and you can switch to them whenever you want. I actually like that, but it depends on the size of your pen drive obviously, but yeah. So if you're in Linux, use Fedora Media Writer. I've used it, it works. If you're on Windows, use Ventoy to disk. Just install Ventoy and you'll get it. Oh, one note, I have never been able to dual boot Arch Linux. So the last time I tried to do that, I broke the other OS that I was installing along with Arch Linux. Now I know, I mean, you can definitely after you've done the Arch Linux install and then you install another OS, another Linux OS. I think Windows is a bit bad with this, but install another OS after installing Arch Linux, then it would probably work. But And at least if you're doing that, do not resize the other OS's partition using CF disk, because I tried that and it just broke. So yeah. So after you burn the ISO, you have a Arch Linux ISO, and then you go into your you reboot, go into your BIOS options, and then you actually select the one with Arch Linux, and then you would eventually boot into this kind of menu. Now, one assumption that I'm making when I'm in this tutorial is that you have a relatively modern laptop, like at least 5 years old would be good enough. The reason I'm doing this is because it would be easier if you have like EFI and stuff. Like, um, this guide might not work if you have like a potato laptop or something. Just prefacing by that. Okay, so you select the first option because that's the best. Now, if you have an Ethernet connection, you can just do the last ping command, ping archlinux.org, or any URL. I just put this because Arch, but you can do any URL to check if you have an internet connection. If you do not, then you can do the Wi-Fi setup. If you do, you can just skip. Now, if you are not an Ethernet user, you should just do this. So first, you have to type iwctl in the Arch Linux install. One thing, it's a very command liney installation, but don't worry, it's gonna be really easy. You just type some stuff, and then everything works. And you'll also learn some stuff along the way. That's what I like about Arch Linux. So you type iwctl to enter the IWD shell. That's for like a fast, simple internet connection. Now, if you've never done this before, I'd recommend you type device list so that you can actually check what Wi-Fi device you're using. Now, for me, it was WLAN 0. I think it's the same device for most people, but you can just check which one it is for you. Now, depending on your device, you do station, device, get networks. I put device there. I mean, you're supposed to put the actual device and no brackets or anything. Just like if I was doing that, I put station, WLAN 0, get dash networks. So you can check all the networks that you can connect to, which are detected, and then you should know which one you want to connect to, but maybe you do not know how you're gonna type it. So this is what this is for. And then station, device, or WLAN 0, whatever, connect, internet connection name. So just like say there's a Wi-Fi thing called WIFI or something. No. You just put Wi-Fi over there. Like you just put the internet connection's name, and then it might ask you to enter the password depending on the Wi-Fi. You just enter it and then enter. And then you do exit and then just ping to check if it works. It should, and if it does, that's great. We can move on. Creating partitions. Now, there is a really old tool called fdisk, which most tutorials recommend. I do not like fdisk. It's not intuitive to use. If you are a caveman like me, I think you'd be better off with this thing called cfdisk. It is not a GUI application, it's a TUI, but it's really easy to use. So, as I said, I'm assuming that you're basically clearing your whole disk's OS, and you're installing Arch on the whole disk. So that would mean that you'd have to remove all the partitions you already have and create new ones. So you'd need a boot partition, which is 100M to 500M. That's M for megabytes. But when you're entering it, you just enter M when you're creating a new partition. You also want to make a swap partition. So when you press new partition, you just want to type 4G or 8G. You do not need a swap partition, but it's good to have. Sometimes if your RAM fills up, swap is the way your PC just puts in extra RAM and stuff. It's not necessary in modern hardware, but it's like a backup. So it's probably just best to do this unless you have a really small disk space or something. Next, file system. So this is like your root partition. This is just automatic. Whatever space is left, you just enter it into that. Now, you'd have noticed that all of these say Linux file system. That's because we're going to actually format the partitions later on. So let's go. Formatting and mounting partitions. So type mkfs.fat. Wait, one thing. Okay, first enter lsplk. That shows you all the drives you have. Now check what kind of way it's formatted. Is it NVMe or STA? Now I'm typing NVMe ON1 because that was my disk's name, but it might be STA. If you're doing it in a virtual machine, it might be VDA or something. It depends on the disk. So this is what I did. NVMe ON1 P1. That makes the boot partition a FAT format. Now for partition 2, you're gonna do mk swap to make it a swap partition. For partition 3, you're gonna make it xt4 because that's exFAT. That's like a Linux file system partition. It's these days many people use BTRFS and stuff, but exFAT's just simpler. It doesn't have as many features. It doesn't have nearly as many features as BTRFS or ZFS, but it's simpler and yeah, I just do this all the time. And then you mount your root partition in the directory /mnt. After that, you make a boot EFI thing. You have to make this partition so that you can mount the boot partition into that. So make dir -p/mnt/boot/EFI. And then you mount the boot partition. Hang on, I made a mistake. Or actually I didn't make a mistake. The image is covering that, so yeah. Sorry, bruh. So you actually mount it into mount the boot partition to /mnt/boot/EFI. And then you turn on the swap partition. You do this by swap on. And then it's just lsplk to check everything was formatted. If you're doing SDA, it would look something like this. And if it's NVMe, this part would be different. It would just say NVMe, whatever the partition drive name is. Now, this is the boot partition, swap partition, and the root partition. Okay. So when that is done, you have finally formatted and mounted all your disks, and you're ready to actually install Arch Linux. So this will get you many firmware packages and stuff. So packstrap into /mnt. This will install them in /mnt. You want base linux-firmware, soft-firmware. This is for audio. It's best to have if you have a newer laptop. You want base-devel, grub, EFI bootman mgr, nano. Nano is a text editor which you would need for the installation process. You can use any one. Personally, I used Helix. You can use NeoVim, Vim, Emacs, whatever. If it's a terminal text editor, you can't use something like VS Code or something. Network manager, a network manager is best to have if you're. It actually is just really good to have if you want to connect to internet. Do not forget installing network manager or some kind of network thing. Now, I put grub here. If you know how to do it with system deboot, that's fine. You can replace grub. But I'm in this guide, I'm going to show you how to use grub. Okay. Now you're going to make a file system tab. Because right now I don't think your thing actually has. I don't think the Arch Linux installation actually has like directories and stuff. So you're going to do that. So gen fs tab /mnt. That's where root partition is. So it just makes the file directory, the Unix file system and stuff. Genfs tab /mnt, and then that's like a greater than sign for /mnt /mnt/etc/fstab. So what you're doing, you're basically just sending the output of this command into this directory. What you can do with this, you can just like view the contents of that directory anytime after you've installed. So for instance, I'm going to show you an example. If I do cat /etc/fstab /mnt/etc/fstab, I suppose. Yeah, it doesn't exist. Point is, you can do outputs like this, and it's probably helpful for some scripts and stuff. Just good to have. Now, you want to check that it's the same as the first one, and then you do arch-chroot /mnt. Now, what this does is basically lets you change the root to your Arch Linux system. So you're basically actually in the Arch Linux system that you installed. Now you did install it, but it's definitely not ready to use, or even you can't reboot now. I'm just gonna say that it's not good to do it. You can't use it just yet. It's there, but it's not perfect just yet. So what you need to do next is set up time. So first off, you might want to check this directory, the /usr/share/zone-info directory, and see, you should be able to find your time zone. If you're in US Eastern, this is the directory you want to find, US Eastern. And then to actually make it your time, you do ln-sf, the directory where your time zone is, and then space /etc/local time. Now obviously, rather than US Eastern, if you're not in that time zone, you put your time zone. You can put Asia/Dubai, or maybe Asia/India. I'm not sure, I haven't checked that, but you get the point. And now you should do date to check if this is your actual date time. This command shows you the date time in Linux. One thing I don't think bruh, where was I? Date. Here. Yeah, I didn't put the system clock synchronized thing, so hang on. Oh yeah, this is what you would do. I had done this command and it worked, so I'm just gonna copy paste this here. For some reason I forgot to put that. So yeah, this is better. Okay, so that's how you set up your time. Now local. So these are like languages and stuff. Now you want to put nano/etc/local.gen. I put nano because I'm assuming that's the text editor most of you are going to use. Obviously, if you're using something else like Helix, NeoVim, Vim, Emacs, whatever, you'd put that instead. Scroll down to the line that has your locale. So uncomment that line. My locale was n_us.utf8-8. Now, this is basically gonna mean that your PC is gonna be in English, I think. And if it is, that's great, because, sure, why not? At least you can just go to line 170 and then just do that, because that's what I did. It's not actually in line 170, but it's close to that. If it isn't, you'd have to search for it. Okay, then you just save it, and then you exit. After that, you do local-gen. This would generate your locales, and then you now This should be enough, but there are many programs which often check your local.conf. So you nano /etc /local.conf, and then you type this. So this is basically your local, the local that you selected. So lang equals, you'd put the local. You don't have to put the second UTF-8. You can put whatever you're using. And make sure there are no spaces when you're doing this. I once did that, and my locals would fix properly. It's not a big error, but you can fix it easily. But still, just don't put spaces in the local.conf. Okay. Next, the key map. If you're using an US keyboard, you do not need to do this. The step is optional. If you are not using a US keyboard, then it's best to do. If you're using something like German, you'd put DE and so on, so on. So that's in the directory /etc /vconsole.conf. Now, you want to make your host name whatever you want. Like I put carmi-pc. So to keep your host name, you do nano /etc /hostname. Next, password plus user creation. So first off, you're gonna make your root password. Now, obviously, you don't put 1 2 3 4 unless your memory is bad. But try to keep like a reasonably good password that you can actually remember. And it from my experience, it's you don't it is overkill to have a password that's more than like 8 characters long, because you're gonna be entering this password every single time that you're actually installing anything, and that can get tiring after a bit. So there should be a limit to how long your password is. But yeah, to add your username, to add your user add -m-g. Put in the wheel group for now, because that's what I've done. I think you can put in sudo, but no, just put in wheel for now. -s /bin/bash, and then the username. I put username there. You can put whatever. I put when I was actually installing it, I didn't write username. I wrote carmeet. Now /bin/bash, that is the shell. Now, obviously, you might want to use something like fish dash z shell, whatever. Best do that later, because bash comes by default in the packstrap commands that we done previously. So if you do not want to use bash even now, you have to install it before and then create your user. Okay, password for the username you made. I didn't write username, I wrote carmeet. So you'd enter your password after that for the username. Now, if you want sudo privileges for a user, and assuming you're a normal desktop user, you probably would, write editor equals nano, the text editor, and then sudo. Scroll to the end of the file, and this is why I told you to put in the group wheel, right? So you just want to uncomment this. This is what the group wheel part should look like after you've uncommented it. And then you save exit. Sue your username. So you want to go in Sue. It basically changes your lets you log into another account. And then you want to see if you can update with you basically use a sudo command. You could do many other sudo commands, but this sort of kills two birds with one stone, because you'd have to update anyway. So sudo pacman -syu, that is the update command in Arch. I'm gonna explain the weird in package manager syntax in Arch later on, but yeah, it's weird, especially if you're coming from Debian or Fedora. Okay, so you exit, because I don't want you to stay in your actual user just yet. It's best to do the next steps in the root partition. The root user. So you want to get grub. You might want to get system deboot, but I'm going to show you how to get grub. So systemctl enable network manager. This is the network manager that you had installed in packstrap. I'd recommend just using it, it's good, but yeah. Now you want grub, so grub dash install nvme. That's the drive, not the partition. You're just putting the drive, the disk name, you know. Now my disk was nvme on1. That's not a partition, that's the whole drive. So you just put that, and then you do grub dash mech config dash o slash boot slash grub.cfg. This just generates a grub configuration in that directory. It's not really the config file you'd edit for grub. I'm going to show you how to do that later on. Okay, so you exit to exit arch. You'll be back in the live ISO where you were doing the disk partition stuff. Now you do umount dash a. You're gonna unmount everything you've all of the drives you had mounted previously, and you're gonna reboot. Now one thing, if everything worked for you before doing this, then that's great. You should be able to boot into your Arch Linux system properly. If you haven't at any time, I would recommend consulting the Arch wiki. You should be able to, because it's always worked for me and most of the people that I know, but just don't reboot if there were some errors along the way. That's what I'm trying to say. Now, after you've booted into your Arch Linux for the first time, you'd want to connect to Wi-Fi because the internet connection doesn't stay. You had connected when you were in the ISO, but you have to connect to Wi-Fi now. Now, obviously, if you're an Ethernet user, skip this. But if you aren't, this is why you'd install Network Manager. So, what you'd have to type is nmtui. Remember CF disk? This is another TUI application like that. It's not CLI, it's TUI. So what you just do is press the down arrow, and then you enter when the activate a connection section is highlighted like this, and then it should show you all your networks that you can connect to. Just pick the one you want, maybe enter password, and yeah. I really like NMTUI. I use it in my actual Arch installations. It looks like this. I'm not going to do this because it will show my networks, but you'd want to have this highlighted. I love this application. It's so simple. Okay. Now, I'm going to be honest. I'm not sure about installing drivers and stuff because I never really needed to do that. I'm not a gamer, so I do not need GPU drivers and stuff. So it's better to consult the Arch Linux wiki for this. However, you would be doing some of these things anyway, so it's best to do them now and then do the wiki later if you're just to confirm that you have done everything. So, if you have an Intel CPU or iGPU, you'd want to install these. So, this is sudo pacman -s. This is the install flag for pacman. I'm gonna show all of them later on. It's near the end. Okay, so -s to install these Intel drivers. Now you want to type va info. This would show you an output something like this. It would just show you all these supported ports and entry points and stuff. It should be something like this. If it's an error, consult the Arch wiki. And then you nano use your text editor to enter .x profile. So you would type this, export libvay driver name equals ihd. Now, I forgot to say this, but when you're logging into Arch Linux for the first time, you log into the user you made, not the root partition, because you're setting up your user stuff now. Anyway, now AMD drivers, I didn't test this out, so I can't confirm it works, and I'm even less confident with this than I was with the Intel drivers. But you'd assuming you have an AMD CPU and an AMD GPU, you'd install all of these. VA info, it should look somewhat like this output, and if it does, that's great. So you'd make you'd edit this config and you type this. It would look something like this. Okay, if you're an NVIDIA GPU user, NVIDIA supposedly works bad in Linux. I have no idea about this because my laptop doesn't have an NVIDIA GPU. It never did. So, but from what I could understand, you'd do these. You'd install the NVIDIA drivers, utils, settings. You'd regen the init ramps so that your PC actually boots using them, and then you'd edit your make init cpio.conf. Type these. This is all in one line. I don't think it fit, and that's why it's like this. And then you make it again. Just regenerate the init ramps again. And then you do this. I don't know. I can't even explain this properly because I have no idea about NVIDIA drivers. Now, at this point, you can basically do whatever you want. If you are a caveman, I'd recommend you stay with me because I'm gonna show you a really cool desktop environment that kinda looks like Windows, but in my opinion, it's better because it's more customizable and stuff. So what you'd want to install is KDE Plasma. I really like KDE Plasma. So you're gonna install and update. The things you want are Git, Plasma, console, SDDM, SDDM-KCM. That's to configure SDDM. That's your login manager. I'll start explaining for me. Git sort of like lets you install many online tools. You're gonna use this later on in this very tutorial actually. Plasma, that's the desktop environment, but it's the simple desktop environment. It doesn't have many things, so you're gonna have to install them separately probably. Console is the terminal that you use in KDE Plasma. SDDM is the display manager that you use in KDE Plasma. This is to configure the display manager. Display manager is basically your lock screen. And in Linux you can use any one, and you can switch sessions with them. It's really cool. Plymouth, that's a grub theme basically that it would load when you're booting. Plymouth-KCM, that's the settings for that in KDE Plasma. Firefox, that's a browser. I'd recommend just doing it. I don't think you can do Google and stuff like that from Pac-Man, so yeah. BlueS, that's for Bluetooth. BlueS-utils, also Bluetooth. CUPS, that's for printers. Now, you would have to install this, but I'm not really sure how to do printer stuff in Arch Linux just yet. So there will be more setup and configuration. But you can do this for now. Avahi, that's for internet and printer auto detection stuff. Install it for now. And this system-config-printer is also for printer. I can't say that your printer would definitely work if you install these. Just consult the wiki if it doesn't. Fast fetch, that is basically useless. It just shows your system specs. Many people in Reddit like to show off the Linux distribution they are running using this fast fetch, and it's almost like a proof that you use Arch Linux. I guess you can flex later on. Now, sudo systemctl. You're using systemd, and that means you use systemctl to enable services at startup. Not everything's a service, obviously, but things like these are services. Now, you have already installed all of these, so you should be able to enable them. CUPS, Avahi, Bluetooth, and your display manager, SDDM. Okay. Now, when you were booting into Arch Linux, you'd have noticed that it gave you like a menu type thing. It let you select your Arch Linux or your BIOS again, and I kinda don't see the point because I can do it before that menu appears. And also, if you're not running any other OS, there's kinda no need of that menu. So what I usually do is sudo nano text editor, and then you do /etc/default/grub. That's the directory where your grub config is. Now, the top part, I'm not saying you should remove everything else. This is just the top part. This is all you need to edit. there's one character that you change. You see grub timeout? Okay. I think it would be 5 by default. You just change that to 0. And in this, if you want to splash, I won't recommend doing it just yet. I think KD Plasma would let you change and get the splash by default. So maybe don't do splash just yet. And just do sudo grub dash config. This is the command to update grub to make sure it actually uses this configuration. And after that, you reboot. Now, one of the biggest features of Arch Linux is the AUR. You can supposedly it's the most comprehensive user repository on Linux. Like you can install the most up-to-date packages using Arch Linux, using the AUR. Now, my favorite AUR helper is Paru, because it's really easy to use and for the most part it just works. Unlike Yay, for some reason Yay just didn't build many packages, which Paru did. Also, Yay is just weird to use. Like, it always asks you if you want to clean your cache or something. And, I mean, it doesn't need to do that. Another good thing about Paru, it's supposedly more secure. So just use Paru. That's my recommendation. So to do that, you would search up Paru and Git, because you'd want to get it from GitHub. This is why you install Git earlier. So you'd click on this link. It would look like this. Scroll down to this part and copy paste this into the terminal. You'd press the square icon thing over here and Control Shift V to copy stuff into the terminal, and paste it into the terminal. Yeah. So this just installs stuff, and then Git clones the repo cd parse and make packages SR. This is a Rust program, so it will install some Rust dependencies while doing this, and because you're compiling the program, it can take around 2 minutes. So your PC fans may start or something like that. I'm just saying that, and it will take about 1 to 2 minutes to get Paru. Now, this was probably your first compiling experience. Did you like it? Would you like to do that for every app you're installing? Maybe some apps can take more than 5 to 6 minutes to compile. I'm assuming not, because sometimes you just want to get apps quickly. So my recommendation is to get the chaotic AUR. So these guys basically pre-compile some packages and just let you install the binaries. So what you'd want to do if you want to enable the chaotic AUR, search chaotic AUR in your browser, Firefox, and then you click on this link. And when you're in the site, you click on this Get Started menu. Now there will be a list of commands, and I think there's also one where you edit a file. I think your etc pacman-conf thingy, and yeah, that's about it. It's really easy. You just follow those and you'll get it done. So now onwards, because you have the chaotic AUR enabled, you should be able to get a binary for many things. So whenever you're installing and it gives you an option for -bin, like for example, rather than installing Brave, if it gives you okay, it'll give you a -bin option with a binary, and sometimes it lets you choose between a -bin option and one without that. You'd want to get the -bin option because that's just a fast binary that you can install without compiling or anything. Okay, now I'm gonna teach you the Pacman syntax. I'm doing this with Paru because you would be able to install things from the Pacman repos too using Paru, your AUR helper. So you can just use this command whenever you're doing anything related to packages. You don't even need to type sudo pacman whatever. Now, if you want to install something, I put package. It's not a real package. It's just like a placeholder. You put your actual package into that. Paru-s package to install something. you've already done this a couple of times. If you want to remove something, paru-r package. Or if you want to remove it with its dependencies, because sometimes it won't let you to just do this. You'd have to remove many of its dependencies too. You do paru-rnc package. Whenever you're doing this, just make sure that you're only removing things that you want to remove, because sometimes it may remove other stuff. To auto remove packages, I mean, you won't type package for this, it's just system wide auto removing. Paru-r dollar brackets paru-qtdq. This is only in bash, or I don't know, Z shell or something. If you're using the fish shell, you wouldn't type the dollar sign. You would just, brackets, whatever. And when you're doing this, be careful. Sometimes it can put packages which you do not want to remove, same as this. So just make sure you're only removing what you want to remove. If it doesn't, because if there's a package that you want to keep, then you'd have to reinstall it, or sometimes you may have to you might just want to not remove that, so you just stop this command and then remove all the stuff you want to remove manually. Now if you want to search a package name, because you might not know its name, right, or you might not even know if it exists in paru, sudo apt search, or sorry, that's Debian, paru and then just the package name. Or you can do paru-s and then a small s and then the package. To update, it's just paru. You just type paru, or you type paru dash capital S small y small u. I just type paru because it's a shorter command, easier to type. Now to list the installed packages, to search the install packages for a specific package, in Debian you have to do this. In Arch, you just do paru-q and then the package name. So for example, if I do paru-q grub, I can see my grub. This is a package that I have. So it's like that. Now maybe you want to clean your cache and stuff. You would have to do paru-scc. These aren't all of the pacman commands. There are many more, and because these are use flags, you can combine them in different ways. Like this, for example. This is basically a combination of many use flags to get this done. So there are many possibilities you can do. I just think these are some that you can use on a daily basis, and not everything daily, but you get the point. Like, these are some that your average caveman would actually use. So it's good to know these ones. Keep them in your head, And there are many more commands you can use. And if that's too much for you, you can get started by doing GUI package management. I wouldn't recommend this, because if you're an Arch user, you must do things the Arch way. Just kidding. I just won't recommend, because sometimes it's easier it's just faster to install stuff through the command line. But you do you. So a very nice GUI package management thing that I would recommend using is Octopi. You might be able to use Discovery. You'd have to install this thing called Package Kit. It's like this. I think it's like it is Package Kit if you want Discover to work, but chances are it wouldn't really work with Arch packages. It's not meant to work with it, and it would just be really buggy. If you want a proper GUI package management thing, I just recommend you installing Octopi with this command. That's all you do, and then onwards I think you're done. Like I've shown you how to install stuff. I've helped you with repos and everything. Now obviously if you want to set up printers properly, you'd have to do the wiki for that. If there were any errors while you were doing this, wiki is basically the answer to everything in Arch. Just remember that. Anyway, you can type fast fetch in the terminal and you'd get something like this. I have a custom configuration for it, which is why it looks like this, but and you can flex to people and say, I use Arch, by the way. Good luck, guys, and remember, the first thing that an Arch Linux user thinks of when he wakes up in the morning is, I must now touch grass. See ya!